welcome back. We apologize for taking a couple minutes extra, the little set change issue, and we're all set for the next session. And this is our fourth session at Ensuring Success 2025. We're so happy that you're here with us. We would not be able to have these sessions. We wouldn't be able to be here if it weren't for the support of our sponsors. So I really quickly want to read off the names of our sponsors who are making this event possible. And that includes ADP, Avalara, Canopy, CPA.com, Digits, eFile for Biz, Field Guide, Karbon, Count, WriteWorks, SafeSend, Suralink, ValueInsights.ai, Walters Kluwer, and Xero. So thank you to them, and in particular, thank you to Karbon, who is sponsoring this particular session. And this particular session is, It's Time to Grow, Techniques for Successfully Scaling Your Accounting Firm. First, just a couple of quick housekeeping items. First of all, this is an interactive session, so not only will we be discussing this topic amongst ourselves, but if you have questions that you'd like to present to the speakers, you can enter them in the Ask a Question box on the bottom of your screen, and we will try to get to as many as we can during this session. If you have any questions about tech issues or any difficulties you're having with viewing this or participating in this event, up at the top of your screen, you'll see an email, info@ensuringsuccess.com, as well as a phone number where you can text. So you can email or text your problems, and we've got people standing by who can help you with that. And then as for CPE credit, if you haven't been here in an earlier session, just a quick explanation. The way we issue CPE credit is we verify your participation by showing 3 codes at the bottom of the screen during our session. So we'll break 3 times. Each time we'll show you a code at the bottom of the screen. You need to write that code down because that's your evidence that you were here. And then when you're ready after the event's over to get your CPE certificate, you can go to the top of the screen where it says CPE/CE credits, and you'll be able to get to, that'll lead you to a screen that asks you to give the email address you used to register. If you hadn't registered yet, it will let you register at that time. And then it'll take you to another screen where you can enter the CPE codes that you've copied down from every session that you've attended, and then you can download your certificates right on the spot. So today in this session, we are being joined by a panel that includes Ian Vason, Jason Blummer, Aaron Burson, I did that in opposite order from where they're sitting, and our co-moderator, Alexandra DeFelice, whose job is also to be the chief bell ringer when we do CPE credits, so that when you hear that sound, you'll know that it's time to write down the CPE credit that appears on your screen. Okay, I'm going to have each of our speakers introduce themselves really quickly, and then we'll get into the topic at hand. Aaron, I'll start with you.
Sure. Aaron Burson, I'm a CPA out of New York. I run a firm, Fringe Advisory. We focus on financial services, outsourced accounting, CFO services, and digital transformation for our clients.
I'm Ian Vason, co-founder of Karbon, also one of the authors of Scale with Purpose, which we'll talk about in a second. Been around with Karbon for almost 12 years now. Practice management, one of the leading practice management globally for the category for accountants. History before that, led Xero in North America, Intuit before that, and a whole lot of other experience. And co-author with our next person.
Hey, Jason Blummer here. Good to see you all. I have been running a firm for 25 years, so wow, that's a lot of running firms, and running our Thrival community where we consult, teach a lot of programs on how to scale. For the past 15 years, been running that organization. All of those with my partner Julie, who project managed Ian and I in writing our book, Scale with Purpose, for firms, and we're pumped to be here. Thank you for having us, Gail.
Excellent.
So cool.
And I'm Alexandra DeFelice, Chief Marketing and Business Development Officer for JMBM Law Firm in Los Angeles, designated bell ringer and co-moderator with Gail for all 14 sessions.
All right, and I am Gail Perry, Editor-in-Chief of CPA Practice Advisor. And we do have the 2 authors of this new book that it was published this week, I believe.
Yesterday.
Okay, yesterday.
Literally
so-
hot off the presses.
Hot off
Yeah,
the
it's
presses.
hot
I
off
think
the
it
presses.
feels a little warm.
Feel it, it's warm.
So this book is about scaling, and we want to talk about scaling in general and how it's something that might be interesting to you and your firm. First of all, let's define what do we mean by scaling.
Well, I'll go first. And Jason, don't press the button. I know you want to press the bell. So when we did the book, Jason and I came together and really wanted to share what we had learned from our decades of working within the profession and working with firms on a consulting side and on a tech side of things. And this book really addresses the issues that we saw through long-term studies that have been done between firms of size 8 and 20. So there's a scaling plateau that hits there. You see it financially, you see it organizationally. And so we did a lot of research and prep for the book to really understand why those road bumps occur and how some firms are able to navigate it and other ones struggled through it. And so what would you want to say, Jason?
Yeah, it's scaling has a lot to do with what we call expansion. So anytime if a firm stays still, that is, it doesn't grow, then you can resolve and solve a lot of your issues. But when you're always adding more people, adding more revenue, you create a lot of complexity. And so we help figure out, how to do that. And we did it through a lot of interviews with people like Aaron, Burson, who does this stuff every day. That's the kind of stuff we're doing. I do it every day in our firm. Ian does it every day in running his company. So scaling is when you're trying to expand, get larger, and you create a lot of complexity, and you get lost in a lot of that in trying to run a company. So scaling is very difficult for service-based companies, which I think we prove in the book.
And speaking of scaling, Aaron's been on the front lines of scaling recently. Can you just tell us a little bit about what your experience has been?
Yeah, sure. So, I started my firm right before the great pause of 2020. So perfect time to go off on your own. But then started that organically through contacts. Then in the last 2 years, we've bought 2 additional firms down in Charleston, South Carolina. Kind of those stone tablet firms, very paper-based, not process-driven or anything like that, and then modernized those and incorporated that in. So kind of organic with the acquired books is how we've been scaling so far.
Excellent. Before we go on and get into this in much more detail, we're going to do a really quick break here to introduce you to a little bit of information about our sponsor, Karbon, and we'll come back with the first CPE code for this session. So don't go away. And welcome back. And if you look at the bottom of your screen, you should see the first CPE code for this session. It's a 3-digit code. You want to be sure you're looking at the screen. That's what that bell is for. Write this code down if you're planning on getting CPE credit for this session. All right, we were talking about types of leaders while we were taking a break, and I think Ian's going to dig into that a little more.
Yeah, in the book, we really get into the concepts of when you talk about getting into scale and operations and being able to, do capacity planning. It really starts from you as an entrepreneur, and we go into then the team dynamics of things. But as an entrepreneurial leader in a service organization, it has different tracks. So over the course of the last 12, 15 years that I've been studying the profession, we were able to come through and see in the data really around, there was three primary types of leaders. There's those that are satisfied, there's those that essentially are going to be calculated, and those that are entrepreneurs, and then there's a fourth subtype of entrepreneurship, which is overwhelmed.
And I think we have a slide to illustrate this if you want to pull that up for us.
Yeah.
And so when you're looking at this, when you talk about scaling a firm, it doesn't necessarily mean that success or what you want really comes down to, well, how big is the firm? How many employees is it? The mindsets that we see here in the Entrepreneur's Mindset Matrix is really the navigation that you might go through as you start to go from yourself ultimately to some staff to maybe a departmental organization. And we talk later about the scaffolding in a firm. These aren't necessarily linear paths. And so for those of you that, it's one of the most profitable points is being a single person firm. And it's one of the things you need to think about. If I want to add some people, that's gonna lower that profitability. And if you go into that one, that's where you're satisfied. It might be a hobbyist sort of situation, but you can actually build it to a simple firm. But if you are calculated, then you're looking at, we measure it based on your satisfaction of the firm, but we also look at the growth rate of revenue in the past 12 months, in the future, what you expect to be. And that's what creates that sort of diversion or separation between calculated and entrepreneurship, which is really around expectations. Where it goes a little bit sideways, which isn't in the graph we talk about in the book, is overwhelmed. If you're an entrepreneurial leader and you want to scale and grow a firm, you ultimately have to struggle with that overwhelmed aspect where your expectations where you need to be, which might be, again, where you're meeting them versus where you think you're going to be, are going to be offset. And that's a really dangerous spot because you cannot grow a firm to larger than 20 if you're in that overwhelmed state. It just does not work. Jason, any thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, it's just the chart points out some specifics about FTE, full-time equivalent team size. And so we, through a lot of our consulting, and Aaron, I know probably knows this too, you feel
Live and breathe it.
You feel, yeah.
That overwhelmed state you mentioned,
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
gone
Yeah.
there and come back. Yeah.
Well, you feel your way through a lot of the those ranges of team. So when we consult and work with people, we can say, how many people do you have? What's your revenue size? And that tells us where they are and what they're feeling and what they're doing generally. And we put all that in the guide. Ian explains span of control, how many people you can lead at one time. And so you'll see when you get to the 8 to 20, which is a really foundational part of our book, that's about $1 million firm. And when you're $1 million firm, there's a lot you have to have in order. You have to have some structure in place. We run a mastermind that leads those kind of things. And that's where people really hit the skids. And it's because you have to have leadership. At that size, the founder, owner cannot do all of the work, so they're having to deploy a lot of the service through other people, through other teams, through other leaders. And about 8 to 20 is when you're starting to run a business, and you have to move very solidly out of technical compliance work. And that's odd. That's odd for technical founders to stop doing the revenue generation. That feels really odd and strange. And so we teach them, you're an entrepreneur, you're running a business. 8 to 20 team members is where you have to figure it out. You better. It gets harder after that.
So I just sent a survey out to the audience based on the 4 types, because just to get a feel for what people think if they're type 1, 2, 3, or 4. So I'm going to just keep that open for a little bit, and we'll report back what the people in the audience are feeling.
No, I think it's important to note, at least from my perspective, you're not always one of these, right? Like you can go through phases of being more entrepreneurial
Totally.
and calculated and kind of ebb and flow. I do think there's probably a default that we fall back to. Like for me, I'd fall back more to that entrepreneurial and like dreaming big kind of thing.
Yes.
I mean, that's just where I am.
I know.
But I think there's a default, but then we, at different phases in that cycle of running a business or a firm, we kind of jump around there. But
Totally.
Yeah.
And being entrepreneurial isn't for everyone, right?
No.
Especially
No.
in this profession, it's a little scary.
It's not.
I mean, that was one of the things we learned in the process of the research was we go to conferences and we go to events and everyone talks about, well, how many employees have you grown? How much revenue have you grown? And that, and in the book, it's interesting, that's not success. That's ultimately not what's important about that. And there's different pathways to get there. But it's about how do you set up the particular firm of your dreams? Do you know what it's going to take in order to be able to drive a firm of a certain size and capability? And when someone comes to you and say, like, you need to do this, no, it's an internal reflection you need to do. When you mentioned around the pathways, there's no lines on that chart. And the reason why there's no lines is the entrepreneurial leader decides how they want to navigate that, but they need to take the moment to reflect and understand where they're going to go with that aspect.
I think also another just call out, because we mentioned on our prep call for this, like, what is scaling, right? And it's not always linear to getting bigger, right?
Yeah.
There's times when you might decide intentionally we need to scale down to then be more calculated and be more concise and fix those processes. You get to that 10 people, you bump against that, and you're like, everything's falling apart. Let me scale back down to then scale back up. And that I just went through that, actually. We were at that 10 people. I felt like we were hitting the fan a little bit, went back down to 5, now we're back up to 8, and like kind of did that over the last 6 months.
That's the story of a lot of the interviews. Ian led some pretty massive research with firm owners. A lot of them scaled up and pulled back.
Yep.
And they did that based upon their purpose. You know, a lot of, it's like, this is not why I got into the business. So, Aaron, that's a perfect point.
I can echo that 1,000%.
You can't feel bad when you scale up to 10 or 12 and pull back. That's real common. And so you kind of waffle your way through scaling. And sometimes out of our conferences, a lot of people will go, this was a great conference, thank you. Now I know I don't want to scale.
Right.
And we're like,
It's right sizing for them.
that's
right?
what it is. And they learn that through the structure and the teaching and go, no, this is not for me.
And I want to, to everybody that's out there, I want to, and we did large amounts of data for the research, but 95% of firms did not go linearly through the 8 to 20 employee growth. Essentially, 95% struggled and typically went backwards to then go forward. And I want everyone to realize that one of the biggest things that came out of it was being empathetic with yourself and realizing that everyone's going through these struggles. And that's what the book is trying to provide, which is assurance around what you're feeling and how you're feeling it is not atypical.
Yeah.
So I just want to say, to see what, I'm going to actually push these results out to the audience so that they can see what people responded. But it looks like out of everyone in this order, the biggest percentage, 38%, are type 2, which is calculated, high satisfaction, and medium to high growth. And then following right behind that is type 2, which is high satisfaction and low growth. So just kind of getting the idea. The other ones are way, way below. And is that what you expected from this audience?
So typically, it's usually relatively on the hobbyist, so on the satisfied. Generally, depending on who we're talking to, that'll generally go lower. The overwhelmed, interestingly enough, when you look at the entrepreneurial side, the overwhelmed actually is even with the entrepreneurial. It takes quite a bit of time for that to settle down.
It was slightly higher in the responses.
And so it really depends on the audience that we're talking to. So.
So I have a question. What's the motivation? What makes a small entrepreneur type person or a firm owner want to scale, want to grow? What's that driving thing that makes him say this isn't enough?
It's an Aaron. It's
kind of why I'm
it's a
asking.
Jason and a he,
changes,
and
yeah.
it's like there's just an internal want to do more. And we learn, and the book proves out that scaling is actually a skill you got to learn. And so when you hit 5 to 8 team members, man, it gets hard because that's when you get a lot less profitable, and it's only a dip. It's a dip from your research. So, and that's because you're investing in a lot of leaders because you've passed the span of control of what you're able to do on your own. And so you're starting to hire people to help you. But your revenue's not caught up with the investment in the team and structure that you're putting in place. And so revenue and team, they're always going together as you get larger, but they don't go together in reality. And so, you want more, like Aaron said, and then you go, this is not working.
Yeah.
And you got to right size some of your structure to be able to take in more revenue. We have chapters fully devoted to revenue, fully devoted to capacity, how they're tied very intimately together. And so I think it's, Aaron, you could tell me better, you just have this desire to go out and expand, right? I mean,
Partially, yes. I mean, for me, I genuinely love what I do.
Yeah.
Like, I wake up every morning and I'm excited to do more of what I do, right? So part of my drive is I want to make as many fulfilling careers for other people in the profession as I can, because I love what I do. So that's like my main driving factor. I mean, being able to then control my day and play more with AI and do all the fun stuff that I like to do, that's just like bonuses. But for me, it's, I had some fortunate mentors in my career that pushed me towards, do what you love. I genuinely feel like I am, and I want to try to get other people to be in the same place.
I want to dig into that because you said do what I love. Ian said the firm of your dreams. And we've had sessions in past years where we talked about how to get the firm of your dreams. And I don't know that we have something specifically dedicated to that this year. So what are when someone actually has 5 seconds to think about what they want instead of just, working all the time, what does the firm you want mean?
It's interesting. In the book here, and Julie Shipp, who is, has worked with Jason throughout Rival and Bloomer Associates, she would always say, do you know what it takes? And do you know what you want? And that's where we start the book, which is, what do you as a leader want? Most people come into this as an entrepreneurial leader that's a technical expert that then starts to get a business that starts to evolve and grow inherently. And that's where the book and the titling, we talk about intentional growth. Because what happens is it typically expands up to that 6 to 8. And then the business doesn't feel like what you thought it was. You don't know where things are at. We have a great story by Jennifer Green about that. Antonia's in there as well, where they scaled up to 12, 14, 16, and they weren't ready for it. They weren't expecting it, and they didn't know what they wanted. Yep. And for some people, when they figure out what they want, like Steph Hines, who's in the book, she knows her firm. She wants it to be really tight, really close-knit group. 14 people is the exact barrier by which they need to run at. And they want to be a calculated business, thoughtful about where they do with the profits, and they want to be able to transcend that over time to be able to give it to the staff that they have. Others, like Aaron, you want to go bigger than that. You want to build something that's going to make a bigger impact. That is totally fine. That's great.
I will say that changes by the month, though.
It does.
It's like every third month, I'm like, should I just go back to like 5 really like good-sized clients and just like go to hell with all this? It's a constant ebb and flow, but then like
that means you're an entrepreneur is what that means. We're like, where the heck am I going?
Yeah, I mean, we went from 2 to 10 people in 18 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right, so like we went really fast up, and then it was like, whoa.
Yeah.
And then that was like the first time that I was like, do I just want like one big client and like just sit back and enjoy? Yeah. And then I kept thinking about why I never went into private practice and why I stayed in public, because I was like, I will be bored out of my mind.
Yeah.
I want that constant change. So then I was like, okay, we got to retool and resize everything. So then we went down, and now we're coming back up.
That's smart.
Yeah.
What are the signs that it's not working?
I mean, I just wasn't happy to wake up. I got to the point where there was a few days, or like a week straight, where I was just like, I have to deal with this again. And then I was just like, something's wrong. Because like for me, going from that daily, like I'm excited to wake up to not, I was like, something's wrong. So for me, that was like the major red flag.
And that's you as an owner, right? And then we were talking in another session about how the staff feels. So when you make these decisions, how involved should the staff be, and how are you feeling them out as to see if you made the right choice?
I have a lot to say about that.
Well, go ahead.
Yeah.
Edit yourself.
Yeah. It's the team can't know the weight of a lot of those decisions. What a good entrepreneur is going to do is care about the team and care about what they want. But building the company and making a lot of decisions, you're going to find yourself making a lot of decisions that may or may not be popular with your team. But a point we make in the book is that you have to build an organization in a very specific way. And what good leaders do is they communicate empathetically to their team. They like, y'all, we've really been thinking about this. We want this to be the best place for you. Here are just some decisions we're going to be making. And so what team need in all companies, they need a leader who's going to decide. But that leader has to be empathetic and caring and understand it's hard on the team too. But when we're doing strategic related changes, we don't poll our team at all, because they have a lot of different lenses and perspectives as to why they would want the company they work for as an employee to be something for them. And it may not be structurally something that works for a company that grows, but an empathetic leader is going to care about them. And then make announcements, ask them to go with them, check back in, because all of that is necessary. But they ultimately can't decide a lot of the complexity that hits the shoulders of the founder.
Yeah, and so Aaron, from that perspective, what are something, like just off the top of my head, not having gone through it myself and as an owner, only as a boss and a manager, is like, okay, you scale up. Well, now you can't pay as much attention to each person, and just even they're feeling them out and knowing their perspectives. You scale down. Now they have more workload. They have to take on more burden for the same amount of clients. What are some other things where you could feel and know that you might have to change or do a gut check with them?
I mean, from my opinion, I'm constantly doing gut checks with them and seeing where they are temperature-wise of like, are they happy, are they not? Do they like what they're doing? Do they not like what they're doing? And for the way that I approach it is, if they're not happy doing this one thing, I try to see if there's technology that we can bring in to take that piece off their plate to kind of evolve what they're doing, if you will. But I think, yes, they have to take on more work, but some of that also with scaling down is also getting rid of bad clients. Right, and I've always stood behind my team that if they don't like a client, I will fire them. It's no sweat off my back, because they are the ones doing the work. So if they are waking up saying, I don't want to deal with this client, that client is no longer a client, because there's something there that's causing a problem, right? And at the end of the day, we don't sell widgets, we sell access to people, right? So we need teams that are happy, enjoy what they do, and are just as excited to do what they're doing as I am to do what I'm doing. So I'm constantly checking with them, even around those strategic decisions, and I'm not maybe asking them the specifics, right? Because like certain things, you as the owner have to decide whether you want to or not, but then keeping them in the loop and bringing them on the journey of why some of these changes are necessary and how it's going to impact them both short-term and long-term, I think really helps keep them on that journey of evolution, versus it just being, this is happening to me as an employee, right? Because like I've been in that position as an employee of like, this is happening to me, I got no say, no control, no nothing.
And when it's that size, when you work for a big Deloitte or some huge conglomerate, it just whatever. You're not going to fight. You have no say.
Right.
You have no say. You signed up for that.
Right.
But when you're in that little intimate group, it's like, oh, this is now changing. It doesn't feel right, or change is scary, no matter what.
It is.
I think the thing to take into account is, to elaborate on what Jason said, was you take the inputs, but the decision rests with the entrepreneurial leader on what that structure is going to look like in conjunction with what the organization needs. Realizing that as you evolve that company, your company, across that 8 to 20 scaling barrier, you're building a business that's not about you. It's a business that transcends you. And so you're doing what's best for those particular people. And many firms, they'll go up to 16, 18 employees and pull back to somewhere around 10 or 12, while ultimately there's less people do the work, there's less chaos. And they find that the profitability skyrockets because they're able to do that load with less people, but those people have more control, they have less chaos, and they're actually happier. And many companies will settle down in that 12 to 16 category because the fact you take out a lot of the unintentional growth and the confusion it creates.
We're going to take another really brief commercial break to hear a little more from our sponsor, Karbon, and then we'll be back with your second CPE code.
Introducing Karbon, practice management software designed to give your accounting firm everything needed to run at scale, boost productivity, strengthen client relationships, and gain control over what really matters about your success and growth. All in one AI-powered platform. View interactive dashboards and reports for visibility over every aspect of your firm. And make make data-driven decisions to instantly optimize for the most impact. Track every client interaction with full context. And work faster and smarter, thanks to integrated AI. When an engagement kicks off, your job is created using pre-built workflows, set on a repeating schedule. And automation triggers workflow updates to keep things moving. Your team always knows what to do and when to do it. And this goes for clients too, who interact in their own portal with automatic document requests and reminders so you never have to chase them. With integrated time tracking and the flexibility for recurring and fixed fee billing, invoices are one click away. And since payment details are pre-collected, you get paid faster. Now, your team can get more work done together. Get started with Karbon today.
Welcome back. And you know it's that time when you hear this sound. Look at the bottom of your screen and write down the second CPE code for this session. Okay, and if you are planning on collecting CPE credit, you'll want to record that code along with the first one that you got, and there will be one more before we end this session.
That Jason will, I'm going to let him do it.
Jason's gonna get
He's
I'm
doing
going
a
to ring
good
the
job,
third one.
guys.
So
We'll
excited.
the
focus on
guest
him.
bell ringer. Yes,
Love it.
That'll be something to look forward to later in the session. All right, teaser. Okay. So one part of the book discusses scaling around purpose and values. In other words, what are the actual reasons, and is it just that Aaron wants to get up in the morning and feel really good about what he's doing, and or does it go deeper than that? What are the kinds of purposes that are reasons that drive people to say, I'm ready to do this, I need to do this?
Well, I think it really does start with leaders like Aaron and Ian and I going, I want to get up in the morning and do this. So it starts there. And then it has to become more structural with core values, purpose statements, missions. And those are the things you lead with. And, the subtitle of the book is The Service Entrepreneur's Guide to Intentional Growth. So the whole thing is about being intentional. And you have to be purposeful as a leader as to why you're scaling. And you have to be purposeful in the messaging that you give your team. Here's why we're going to go do this. Because I feel we have the ability to be pretty special in this market that I think we're going to serve in. So it does has to move past you. And Ian did a lot of writing up front on management, leadership, values, and all these things and what they mean. Because a lot of the front part of the book does a lot of that leadership culture stuff, and then it gets pretty nerdy to the middle and the back of the book. But we start with your question at the front, the purpose and the values and the mission, and really why you're doing this. Because we don't want you to be an arbitrary leader and go, I just want to be 10. And people go, why? And you go, I don't know, I just want to.
Yeah, it feels right.
Nobody's going to follow that. That confuses them.
Yeah, and as you are building the scaffolding that's required, so you move from essentially to 8 people, 6 people to getting your first manager, senior manager inside of this, and now you've got this this employee that's not generating full revenue. Now they're having to manage team members. Well, then you move into a departmental structure that typically exists between that 12 and 24, and then you move into a C-level structure a little bit further, getting up to 50. When you don't have the ability, like you did at 8 people, to have a one-on-one conversation, and essentially either in the room or virtually in the room, they have to be able to lead themselves, and they have to understand what are the decisions and the barriers that I need to follow. And so as the organization gets larger, You need to be able to have that innately within that company culture, because you don't have the opportunity anymore to have that level of depth of conversation with the staff. And they have to feel that their job, what they're doing, they've signed up for, and it's meaningful for them. Because the decisions that you're making as an entrepreneurial leader has to make sense to them and what they're signed up to do. Because it's both a contract, but it's also, there's underlying motivation that every person has to have what they're doing in their job. I mean, what do you think? I mean, you've gone through this, Aaron.
I mean, I agree 1,000%. I mean, your team members need to enjoy what they're doing and want to feel valued and that they're having a real impact, right? If they feel like they're just sitting there punching keys in and it doesn't matter if they were there or not, they're not going to be there. They're going to leave, or they're going to be miserable, make mistakes, and that's going to transfer on to your clients. So I think that's really an important part of that team management side of it.
It's interesting, when we went to set out to write this book originally, the book was supposed to be about capacity planning. And from all the research and what we did, we quickly found out that the human element of a service organization is so difficult and so complicated. Humans aren't machines. They have good days, they have bad days. They ultimately have family events, and they don't show up. And it's not just about how do you create a mathematical formula about how to get the most productivity. It's how do you deal with the chaos of not just a manufacturing environment, but a human environment. And it's so complicated, and that's where most firms struggle through that first scaling boundary. And that's what we wanted to understand. Why does 5% of firms navigate this really well, and why does the overarching majority of us really struggle? I struggle with that with my business. Jason did with his. We go through all of our pains and discussions. Humans are complicated.
So since we try to sneak AI into every session, what if you just get rid of the humans and you scale with computers?
Yeah.
An organization, by definition, has to have people. And as an entrepreneurial leader that solves it, it depends on how many people you need. And so whether you're one person, 5, 10, the same organizational design structures and strategy are important for what you want to deliver. My viewpoint is as we move forward in AI over the next 3 to 5 or so years, the segmentation and the size of the firms in the accounting profession will alter. We have a lot of really macroeconomic effects happening with M&A and aggregation to move up. We have a lot of other forces that are making it really difficult for the firms that are between 0 and 10 employees. But AI provides another whole wave of how these new entrepreneurs are going to come in and reshape how they're going to deliver. But they're still going to need the technical experts to be able to make that happen.
Yeah.
Your thoughts?
Well, I love your question. You're kind of leading us a little bit. And, we can be clear that this book is for service entrepreneurs, and you will always lead with people. That's cool. AI is never going to take our team away. It's going to fundamentally change how we do our work. And we're all still learning what that is. Aaron's even building products related to this, which is happening more and more. But you're not going to have to lose your team. And that means the difficulties in scaling around humans and capacity is going to always be there. But I count that as a joy for what we do. I got in this business so I can be with people. I want to lead people. I want them to grow. I want them to change. I want them to feel the weight of a career that's calling them to things that they can pursue that they didn't know they could do. So we love our people. And service entrepreneurs have to lead with people. AI is just going to be another tool. Software, Karbon, is an amazing tool, but even Ian says that doesn't change organizations and people. It becomes a foundational way that you can become more efficient and deliver the mission of why you exist. But it doesn't go fix everything, and AI will never fix all of our problems. It's just another amazing, mind-blowing tool we all have to learn how to use. But I'm not getting rid of my people. I love them.
Now, Aaron, your firm has gone up and down a little bit. So you've
Join
had
the
to
club.
deal with
Yeah, we've all been there.
Join the club.
You've had
All the stories we hear are always about,
That's-
we went from 2 to 100, and it's always linear.
That's
and
not
that's why
actually how it works.
That's not
Exactly.
how it works.
That's
That's
why
not what
I'm
the
always
stories
like, no,
say.
it doesn't go that way.
No.
It goes like this, that.
It does not.
Or even when they tell you those stories, they forget like the 3 weeks that they didn't sleep. That's right. They don't tell you about that part.
We all forget that.
Yeah.
So, well, for all of you, when you've been in situations where there's some fluctuation, both in terms of growth and cutting back, what are some tips, and maybe even sharing some horror stories or experiences that you learned from for dealing with the staff, with the people who are either experiencing being surrounded by new people that they didn't expect would be on their teams, or who are exiting the firm? What can you teach us about that?
I have so many war stories. So I'll tell
We
you.
love those. Please share
Well,
so people can benefit from your
Yeah.
wisdom.
So our firm is 15 people, and we had a senior leader, technical leader, that was not only, we talk about this in the book, what a senior team member, somebody titled senior, what they can do. And they really helped our technical team provide service. Well, we work with that team member a lot. They couldn't turn around some struggles they were having, and we were losing clients because of that team member. So it took us about a year to fire that person. And then about the time we did that, which completely blows up a firm of 15 people, then another person, a senior technical leader with our clients, resigned, said 2 weeks notice, and she was great, and that was hard. So we had to replace that person really quick. These changes, and then the changes that are imposed on our team, it's like, welcome this new team member. The changes on our client base going, who is going to serve me now? Why do y'all keep changing people? It's like, yeah, I'm not wanting to do that to you, but here we go. Here's a new person. That stuff is reality. And so when you have a mission and a purpose and a goal, and when you're pivoting to a new market, we're doing that now, all that stops. Lo and behold, the team have so much power to dismantle the vision in one moment. And where we may normally take a pretty solid, 2 months to hire the right person, you go to recruiter, pay 20 grand for the speed of replacing a person that just left, a cost you never anticipated. That kind of stuff blows up small firms. And the entrepreneurs have to navigate that. And that stuff is it's fearful, it's scary, it's hard. And that's just one of my war stories from 25 years of running a firm. We all have many, many of those. People listening have very, very similar things. You're not alone. You're not alone. Nobody is protected from some of those things. But we wrote a book to help you. So that stuff's hard, but I will say it's worth it because you can get on the other side of that. You're going to learn so much about yourself as an entrepreneur and about your team. You're going to carry them through hard things. You bond through some of that stuff. And you come out the other side typically smarter and wiser. And you get beat up a little bit too. So we wrote a book for people that do feel the weight of that. You get beat up, and that's okay. That's part of the deal. Sometimes you get beat up enough, you're like, I'm freaking done. Or you pull back, and those are okay too. In the book, we say you have got to pick your own journey. Use these as tools, but it's got to be your journey. So we say in the book, there's no right way to do this. So if you're reading stuff that says this is how you do it,
Thanks for nothing.
lies. Lies. We're debunking lies, we hope. But we hope we're giving you
doing it
structure.
is the right way to do it.
Yeah.
That's basically what it is.
That's
It's
right.
It's your right way.
That's right.
What
It's your journey.
Yeah, what we wanted to do, though, if you go through the book, the first third of it is essentially around the leadership and the team dynamics. The second, or the middle part of the book, is really around the understanding of revenue and capacity planning and how those are so intertwined, and how when you do that with an intentionality around the purpose and whatnot, it creates predictability. And the back third of the book really spends around operations management and planning. And so while you can't control necessarily the person that decides they're going to leave, or the fact that we're not aligned on what we want to do together, we can minimize the damage and get earlier indications of these things so we can make quicker actions. So that the peaks and the valleys that we talk through in the book, you can shorten those down. And allows for you to have more predictability and success as you decide to go after whatever your dream is going to be for the firm. And that's why the book has the word intentionality in it. Because most people go through the process, and now I wake up at a 14-person firm, and I wonder, well, who's going to quit? I wonder, why do I not know where things are at with my client? Why did I get this upset email from someone I'm serving, and I can't sleep at night? And why did this all happen? And so that's what we're explaining why this all occurred from all the firm owners out there that have gone
I feel
through
like
it.
they're going to need a therapist. And this is, I mean, this is, I'm not
That's
kidding
a great
around.
use for AI.
Well, no, was it you or Garrett last night? Someone was telling me that was it you,
I think it
Aaron?
might have been me, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, and I was like, maybe I should try this because it's like, it's lonely at the top, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're making all these decisions. Are they supposed to call, if they're trying to get consulting, they read the book, they have ideas, they think they're going to know who to go to. We talked about community in some of these sessions. Is there a community of these like-minded entrepreneurs that they could toss these ideas to?
Yeah, that's why we
I'm just
run.
setting you up for everything.
So that's why Thrival has existed for 15 years. It is. We do a lot of. My
Called Thrival.
Thrival.
Yeah. Okay.
So we're. Julie and I run a firm for 25 years, but we've been on the front line for 15 years of walking entrepreneurs through crying, struggling, worried. We're crying, and so those are private coaching sessions, and we're probably coaching 10, 12 owners a month, and so we've just been coaching for decades, over and over, seeing the issues, and through that we learn patterns, which I put in the book, right?
Yeah.
So there's Ian and I approach this. I come at it from just a practitioner. It's like, this crap is hard, man. And he's got all this structure and stuff that he's taught me and taught people in that. But we say a lot, you can't do this alone. You do not need to run a business on your own. You don't need to. And this profession is pretty cool in that we have a lot of communities, a lot of amazing, good communities for different size firms too.
Right.
And so that's what's really happened
And I
since
think
the pandemic.
that's the thing. Again, most of our audience is a smaller firm, right? So they're all in their own worlds, crying and bashing their heads against the wall and whatever else, right? And then they sit through 14-hour marathon and they're like, oh my God, how am I going to take all this back?
Yeah.
I think we're going to pause with that.
We are. We're going to pause one more time for another word from our sponsor, Karbon, and then we'll be back with the special guest bell ringer for our third CPE code. We'll be right back.
For firms between 1 and 50 employees, there's a scaling plateau that you're going to find where your growth is going to slow and where the voices in your head are going to grow. Scale with Purpose provides you that blueprint to understand why are you going through these particular changes, and if you are smaller, what are you going to face as you move into that period between 8 and 20 employees.
This is for our brothers and sisters. Ian and I know the struggles that people are going through. This book is not just an ethereal, hey, pump you up, hope you can do it. No, it's telling you structures, charts we use, things we give our clients, things we use that are going to really change how you run your business.
Jason and Ian really care. Everything they're presenting is from real world businesses and business owners and real data.
Ian and Jason care so much about this profession, and it's been really awesome seeing them for that expertise and that experience with working with a ton of different firm leaders into a book and really giving people the tools that they need to bring their practice to the next level.
This book is going to take away your assumptions. It's going to back it up with a lot of research and data, and you're finally going to have a tool, a spreadsheet you're going to start keying stuff into and understanding the invisible nature of your business and why it can grow, it can scale, and you can be a great service entrepreneur, but you got a lot to learn. And this book is going to school you.
Welcome back, and it is time for you to record the third CPE code for this session. Take it away, Jason.
Y'all ready?
Yeah. All right.
Yes! Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Be sure to write down this code
Proud
if you're
of me.
planning on collecting CPE credit for this session.
Made this week.
And one thing we were talking about a little bit during our break was the costs, the financial concerns of scaling, whether you're scaling up or down. It's not, it can't be done without the bank book, right? And you've got to involve a little bit of planning in terms of the finances of changing the size of your firm.
So I'll talk a little bit about how you get to maximum value, and you can talk a little bit about how you do that with the capacity planning.
Yeah.
So interestingly enough, one of the first conversations we had in the book was Chad Davis from YFCA. And he had talked about over the years, me and him went from 60 employees to 120. And I assumed he was going to give me an answer of going to 160. But he said, no, we went to 65 employees. And I was shocked. And I said, well, why would you do that? Why would you pull back so far? And our discussion was around enterprise value. And what was he able to drive with the purpose of the firm, the employee experience that he wanted to do, and the client experience, and how that ultimately led to how do I determine the optimal structure of the firm where I get the maximum profitability while being able to meet the needs of the various different constituents that I had. And for him, it was 65. And it comes down to the scaffolding of the firm and how to create the productivity that's necessary. And so as the firm evolves, it generally goes into a pod-like structure, where again, you might have a CAS division, you might have a tax division. Again, they might not be divisions, but you have to fully load those with the staff and you have to drive the revenue to support it in order to get to that sort of optimal set of values. And that's what we go through in the book, which is at different size firms that looks a little bit differently. And depending on the type of client services you do, the technical expertise drives the size of those particular client service departments, whether you want to call that. And that's where you get to that sort of concept, and that's what we walk through the book, which is that enterprise value is dictated by many different factors, but it is also creating fully productive pods. So you want to talk a little bit, Paxi?
Yeah. So a lot of that question has to do with capacity, and you purchase capacity in a service-based organization by hiring people, and sometimes full-time people give you the most focused use of capacity. Sometimes we use part-time people, sometimes we use contractors. Those are all fine. Those are just ways to get at capacity. A full-time, an FTE, one FTE, is really how you can get the most efficient use of capacity. But when you get 8 to 10 people, and Aaron and I know this, is when you start to have to invest in a non-revenue generating person. And that is a non-capacity person. Basically somebody that is, the capacity will not be used for revenue generation. And so now you have a cost of a person that does not also produce revenue. And that, the 8 to 10 is when you start investing in those people. That's where it gets off the rails, right? And that's where it gets less profitable. So there's a lot of planning that can go into that, is learning. And we talk about it in the book, metrics, about how much revenue could one technical FTE produce. You kind of have to know those things before you can promote that person out of a technical role into a leadership role where half of their time is devoted to supporting the team, supporting the founder, and the other half may be devoted to revenue generation. All of that has to be planned. And so in the book, we talk about resources. Actually, we're going to be launching resources in January. If you sign up on our book website, we're going to launch how to build these resources. So I don't know, Aaron, if you have more thoughts about how to invest in the next person for more capacity or...
Yeah, I think step one is actually understanding those numbers.
Yeah.
I think there's far too many firm owners that, especially at those sizes, don't even know what is their revenue per FTE.
Sure.
Yep.
Right, so first understanding that, and then from there you can actually make those decisions of, is it time to bring on that non-revenue person because you can shift things. I think that also plays into what Alexander said before around like AI into your firm. Like you can actually influence the capacity of one FTE.
Yeah.
Right. That revenue number is not fixed. It's not always 1x or 2x or 3x what you're paying them or whatever that number is. That fluctuates, and you can leverage AI to make them more efficient where they can take on more top line revenue, and then that makes that budgeting a little bit easier, less scary, because you can do that in conjunction with one another, where you're bringing on that $125,000, $150,000 person who's going to spend 20% of their time generating revenue, right? And then you can also increase the capacity of the rest of your team simultaneously. Well, now that makes that a lot less scary, right? But I think that's why none of these things are done in silos. Like you're doing all of this stuff together, or you should be doing all of it together, right? But then also for capacity planning, like I take the stance of we plan for everyone to be 80% capacity 100% of the time. So that allows for the human element.
That's right.
Right? When they have those bad days, when they have something going on in their personal life that they're going to be a lot less productive, if you're planning for them to be at 100%, you're going to have problems. Right? And so I found that sweet spot to be 80%. And then that also leaves some capacity for when you have an unintentional person leave. Then there is capacity there within your team to absorb that without overworking people.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important piece of that. Whatever that looks like for every firm is different. I've chosen 80%. Other people choose wildly different numbers, but I think that helps. But understanding those numbers at the first step is necessary.
Okay, I've got two questions. One is this book helpful for people outside of the accounting profession?
Yes, it's actually, well, it's for service organizations generally.
Okay.
So where we're basing a business on humans and doing thought deliverables. So we wrote it, and we did analysis and looked at lawyers and creative agencies and so forth.
And please share where people can get this book.
Well, if you go to scalewithpurpose.info, that's our book's website.
Okay.
Scalewithpurpose.info. And then it has the Amazon buy link on the front page.
All right, cool.
It's available at your Amazon store near you, depending on which location or geography you're in.
Right.
All right. Well, thank you so much. This was a really informative session. I hope you all got a lot out of it because it definitely provided a lot of food for thought. We want to thank Karbon for sponsoring this session. We're about to take a break, midday break, but before we do that, we have a special guest who's coming in to speak to you for a few minutes. It's maybe a surprise guest if you didn't look at our schedule lineup and you're just sitting here waiting to be fed information. But we're bringing in Jody Ann Ray, who's the president of the Texas Society of CPAs, who's going to talk to you just briefly about why you should love your CPA society. So bear with us for just a moment while we change up the set a little bit, and we'll be back with Jody Ann.